Alrighty, welcome back everyone, Scarland here bringing you a new Neverwinter video, and today, as the title suggests, we're going to be looking at a Warlock companion build, aka the Xuna build, aka the chicken build, whatever you would like to call it. So this is specifically geared toward the Warlock. I know other content creators have put videos out there on their own classes, etc. Now this is nothing new. This has been in the game now for well over 6 months, 7 months. People have been using these builds efficiently. So I figured, you know what, let's put a video out, let's add it to our archives, and we'll discuss it, the pros and cons. So, right off the bat, full disclaimer, this build is very expensive. This is a very niche-related build. This is not an optimal build for really doing endgame content. However, you can do endgame content in certain situations, such as Zariel's Challenge. You can run a chicken companion in there and successfully do it. Now, you're not going to run a Xuna, most likely, in Tower of the Mad Mage, because Xuna will one-shot the ice, and you will wipe your entire raid, and everyone will be angry. However, at the same time, you can use a Batiri in Tower of the Mad Mage. So, full disclaimer again, the company recognizes how strong companions are. It's a major topic of discussion right now. Are companions going to get nerfed? Are Indomitables going to get nerfed? What is the company going to change? So I can confirm by Chris Whiteside, executive producer, that they're not really looking at the Xuna. The Xuna probably isn't going to get changed. What is going to get changed is most likely the chicken. So the chicken might get a nerf or adjustment, however you want to look at it, and it's all because of accessibility. The Xuna is not that easy to get. It's a in-demand and high-tier item, so the company feels that yeah, maybe they'll adjust her damage, but maybe they won't. The chicken, on the other hand, was very easily attainable. Everybody has a chicken, thus that's where the problem lies. Now, with Indomitables, we'll talk about those when we get into that section. So, as a player and individual, you need to decide, are you going to spend all of this money on this niche-related build for it to be changed down the road? Now, my thing is that the company has a lot on their plate right now. My own personal opinion is that this isn't going to get adjusted until sometime next year. So you will have ample amount of time, in my own personal opinion. Keep in mind, Cryptic can do whatever they want. They can nerf this tomorrow. So as of filming this video, today's November 9th of 2020. We're coming toward the end of the year of 2020, thank God. So yeah, if you're watching this down the road, maybe this was already nerfed already. So again, as an individual player, this is very expensive. You have to make those decisions. We're going to run through this and jump right into it. So jumping right into it and right off the bat, let's go ahead and talk about some of the items that you are going to need. We'll look at the gear and then we'll discuss everything. So we have the Lyrel's Bell. Now this has been in the game for a very long time. It fully heals and grants 12 seconds of immunity to a companion, even if they are unconscious. So even if your companion hasn't died and you just want that 12 seconds of immunity, this happens to be very useful in, Tower of the Mad Mage or Zariel when they're rearing up one of their big attacks. You can pop this, your companion won't die. Now this is even more important. This is one of the newer ones. This is Lyrel's Bell of the Empowerment. If you didn't farm one of these during the Lyrel event, then it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And this simply just gives 20% more damage to your companion. So this whole build revolves around boosting the damage of your companion as high as you can possibly get it. So essentially, these bells work independent of each other and they have a 2-minute cooldown, so you want to time everything appropriately. So we are specifically talking about the Warlock. Now, you can play this many different ways. Remember, your main objective, all of your damage is going to be coming from your companion. So I chose to go with the Soulweaver. This gets me epic Qs, trowel Qs, and random Qs 10 times easier if I was playing a DPS, right? I get to Q in as a healer, so I get instant groups. And I also like the survivability on Soulweaver, and I can provide some minor healing. Now keep in mind, as a Soulweaver, your main objective should be to heal, but for this niche-related build, it's not. my character is not spec'd out to actually be healing dungeons. Now, at the same time, I can still adequately heal a pub group of, let's say, Lair the Mad Mage. So, even not fully spec'd into healing, I can still perform adequately and keep my team alive. But keep that in mind that that's not your main objective playing this specific build. So yes, I am on Soulweaver, but my main focus is that Xuna. So you can look at this as, yes, I'm a DPS character, but I'm manipulating the system using the healing spec so I get dungeon queues a lot easier. So if we look at my stats right away, we're over 400k HP. My race doesn't matter. You can choose whatever race you want. Most people are still Dragonborn. I'm currently Sun Elf. So if we go ahead, let's look at our statistics here. I'm looking at 153k power, which is well below average for a DPS character. But again, at the same time, my character isn't the one going to be producing the damage. My companion will be producing the damage. My armor pen is so high because of the items we have on our companion, which we'll get into. My defense is well over capped. With the ring, when my ring procs that you saw, it goes up to 116,000. That's way over capped. You can actually lower that if you so choose. Now, my critical strike is low. Remember, if I was going healing, my critical strike needs to be about double what it is now to compensate for the healing I would have to do with this amount of power. But again, I will reiterate, my main objective is not healing. Healing is secondary. So my critical strike is kind of irrelevant for the most part. Critical avoidance, 78k. Accuracy is not needed. My deflect is 88k, which is way more than enough than you're going to need. Awareness is a little low at 61k. If we look at our companion influence, which is a huge deal, we're looking at 60%. And then again, my outgoing healing is only 4.8%, but that's kind of irrelevant for the most part. We're just providing little baby heals for the most part. And crit severity 125. So that covers the statistics. Let's talk about the gear and how I chose to build this. Now, what a lot of people don't know are there are several factors that will maximize your companion to do its full DPS potential. One of those is item level. One of those is weapon damage. One of those is your companion influence. One of those is your raw items that you have, like the Lyral's Bell gives a raw 20%. So there are several factors that will ultimately boost your companion damage, and we'll get into that here. So for my helmet, I'm using Garisto's Horns just because it's defense crit. It's nice to have the Butcher's Focus on it. However, it doesn't really proc that much because, you know, I'm not doing a lot of damage, and I have to do more than 10% in a single hit. So we have the Forsaken Mender's Scale Mail. It has Survivor's Remedy. I'm using the deflection one. Whenever you deflect an attack, you have a 10% chance to restore 5% HP. We have the Fiend Forge Bracers. Again, it has critical and deflection on it. And then whenever you deflect an attack, you gain 1,000 power, and it stacks 5 times, so 5,000 power. And since this is essentially a deflection build, I usually have this up all the time. Finally, with the boots, we do have Wisps of the Shadow Demons currently. Now, are we going to be changing any of this gear down the road? You know, with the hunts and everything, the tier 3 hunts, well, we'll have to see. But right now, I'm pretty confident in this build. So we are using Wisps of the Shadow Demon. It's accuracy, deflection, and it has the ghosted ability on it, which you can read. Now, very briefly, let's talk about the weapons. I'm currently using Lionheart. However, I will switch when the Redeemed Citadel's over to the Blessed set. And again, one of those sneaky little things is that weapon damage does increase your companion damage. So theoretically, you would like to use the Celestial set if you have it. So you want the highest damage in the game. And of course, the Celestial set is the highest base damage in the game at 5,700. The Blessed set would be the second highest in the game, which is 5,500, and then your Lion Guard set is coming in third with almost 5,300. So there's not a huge difference between Lionheart and Blessed, but that little bit of base damage does matter. Because keep in mind, using the Lion Guard set, you also get that 10% outgoing healing, which you might need. So depending on the situation, if you're playing with a bunch of sub-geared players and you're trying to heal them through a dungeon because you're forced to have to heal, you might want to use the Lionheart anyway just for that extra 10% healing because your character isn't actually spec'd into healing. The 3-piece set doesn't really matter. I choose Necklace of the Mad Mage and the Belt of the Mad Mage. It doesn't matter, but you want to make sure you're using the highest item level gear that you can get. Remember, item level does affect the companion damage. You can see that I'm at item level 36,600, so you want to make sure you're using the highest possible gear. As far as my rings, I choose one of the Redeemed Citadel ones, which is the Electrum Ring of the Herald. That's going to be critical avoidance and deflection with defense preparation. And then we have a Ring of the Condemned, which is just pure defense. So again, you can play with this build however you want. Remember, I am super overcapped on defense. I could probably ultimately sacrifice this ring for a crit ring if I wanted to focus on some more healing. You can make this however you want. Just keep your overall objective in mind is that companion damage is the most important. As far as the shirt and pants, we're just using Infernal, and this is going to be the critical strike combat advantage. Let's talk about enchantments. So again, utility slots times 5, you're going to want darks. That's for the companion influence. That's how I have 60% companion influence. As far as my armor enchant, I use the Shadowclad because this is essentially a deflection build. So when my Shadowclad starts proccing, my deflect goes well over 100k. And then I deflect, and then the Shadowclad resets. So I essentially never really get hit. Even if I run Infernal Citadel, those things don't really hit me that hard in there. Which is ideal because you have the survivability, and then you're, breach healing, or if you're the main healer, you have the survivability. You can focus on healing, focus on your Xuna, and pumping out the damage. As far as weapon enchantment goes, I'm currently using a Bowthorn. However, you can put a Vorpal in here if you were focused on more healing. You can put a Holy Avenger in here if you were focused on healing. It's essentially whatever you want. Now, for the offensive and defensive slots, you're going to notice, and I'm going to bring this up for you, in all of my defensive slots, I'm actually using Demonics because it's a tri-statted enchantment and it actually has higher item level. See the item level of 144? That's a big difference. Again, I will reiterate, item level directly affects how much damage your companion will do. So you want as much item level as you possibly can get. So most people just have full Radiance. Radiance in defense for the HP and Radiance in offense for the power. However, if you were taking this build seriously, you would want to put tri-statted enchantments in all of your slots, which I currently don't even have. For instance, I'm using Radiance. So if you notice the difference here, it's a 24 item level difference. Is 24 item level that big of a deal? Well, when you times it by X amount of enchantment slots, yes, it adds up. So I can actually boost up closer to 36,800 most likely, because I still am using Radiance in my offensive slots. Let's talk about the artifacts. Again, you're going to notice that I'm not using my tells of old journals. And there's a reason. Yes, I will gain more benefits from using the tells, but notice the item level. The tells of old are considered old artifacts. The item level is only 150. You want to make sure you're doubling that. So I choose to use the Trobriand's Ring, which is item level 300. It's power, defense, crit, avoidance. I have a Halaster Scepter and a Golden Memories, which are essentially the same statistics. It's HP, power, and crit. You can choose whatever you want here. If you want a Zariel Sword instead of this one, that way you would have HP, power, crit times 3 essentially, because they're all the same stats. So you could put a Zariel Sword here. That's completely up to you. Now, there's a specific reason why we are using the Staff of Flowers for our active, and that is the effect. Create a ring of flowers that fills the air, blah, 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 blah. Allies gain 5,000 power and 5,000 critical strike. This does transfer to your companion, so your companion will gain that 5,000 extra power. So when you're popping your Staff of Flowers, if your Xuna is inside the Staff of Flowers and she's pooping on everything, she gains that extra 5,000 power. So keep that in mind. So that should cover the gear and what I'm currently doing. I showed you my statistics. We're going to move on in the video. Alright, very quickly, let's just look at the overall build, which is, for the most part, irrelevant. The build doesn't really matter. You can customize this however you want. So we have Eldritch Blast, and we have Soul Reconstruction as our offhand ability here. I choose to use Vampiric Embrace because not only does it do damage, but it also heals everyone, and it also removes a negative effect. So it's a very strong ability on Soulweaver. I have Pillar of Power. Again, Pillar of Power will boost your companion's damage. However, Pillar of Power is very small. So if you can pop your Pillar of Power under your companion and then your companion runs off, they should get that effect for the full 10 seconds. And I use this because not only does it increase my outgoing healing as well, but again, my companion will gain the bonus as well. That is 5% extra damage. Now, depending on the content I'm running, I use Soulstorm here, which is essentially a heal. However, if I'm doing lesser dungeons, anything less than Infernal Citadel, I don't even run heals most of the time. The only heal that I run is Vampiric Embrace. If my teammates can't stay alive by me just using Vampiric Embrace, by using the only heal, then you probably have under-geared players and you're going to have to carry them a little bit. So Soulstorm would be my main healing account. However, I rarely use it. But at the same time, there's nothing really you can use. You can use essentially anything. You want to use Blades of the Vanquished, you want to use Hador's Grasp, you want to use Wrath's Shadow, even if you want to use Dread Theft. That ability doesn't matter. 9 times out of 10, I pop the Hador's on here just for funsies. Now, I do have Soul Siphon, which is your daily that will heal, and then secondary to Soul Barrier, which is for like Lair of the Mad Mage on the last boss when he, at the very end of the battle, when he pops that big AoE. This just gives a lot of damage resistance and a heal over time, etc. It's just a good defensive daily to have. As far as my class features, I have Shadow Walk, which is movement speed, deflection, critical strike, and then we also use Soulbound. Now, I will sacrifice Shadow Walk and actually put Borrowed Spirit on if I'm in a Trow and there's another healer in there, because Soulweave regeneration on Soulweaver is actually really bad. So you want to try to gain as many Soulweave as you can. So if you have another healer, if you're doing a 10-man Trow, like you're doing Tiamat or Demogorgon or Sorvenborg, I'll take off Shadow Walk, go ahead and put on Borrowed Spirit, because then I'm gaining more Soulweave once every 10 seconds when I get healed from another source. So the build itself, we're using Essence of Time, which just increases Soulweave regeneration. We have Soul Reclamation, we have Soul Theft, From the Brink, and then finally Fey Pact is the overall build. So that's the build, the powers. Again, this can be literally customized to whatever you want. Your objective is boosting your Xuna's damage. So, or your chicken, or whatever companion you're using. Very quickly, we'll look at the boons. Again, this can all be customized to however you want. This is just what I'm currently using. So the Master Boon, I choose to use Blessed Advantage. However, you should theoretically still be using Focused Retaliation, just because it's pretty much the best in game right now. Nothing really outweighs Focused Retaliation for the Master Boon. However, I do use Blessed Advantage to help boost my healing when I need it, essentially. And that's the same reason that I take Blessed Touch, so I gain 2% outgoing healing from Blessed Touch. However, you can take the action point gain, or, you know, whatever you want, essentially. This is just currently what I'm using and works out for me. And then, of course, we're taking all power, all HP. We have the movement speed, and then again, make sure you're getting that companion influence here. This is another 10% companion influence, another reason why I have 60%. So let's go ahead and jump over to the mounts. Now, again, looking at the mounts, your combat power, you mainly want to run a debuff, because that affects your companion damage. If you're using debuffs, that not only affects your companion, that affects everyone's companion. So if you have multiple people running Xunas, you have multiple people running chickens, you want to be using a debuff combat power, especially for bosses. Trash mobs are irrelevant, you can use whatever you want. So currently I have Bat Swarmed equipped. However, you could put T-Rex on, or whatever debuff you so choose. The same thing with the equip power. Now, there's a specific reason that I'm using Runic Aura, and that's because it's 7,500 power and defense for everyone, essentially, for me and my teammates. And then, you know, if someone else is using this, which not a lot of people use it, so they don't stack. But for whatever reason, if someone else in the group is using one, then you can essentially put whatever you need. For instance, my critical avoidance was a little low. I could put another 15,000 critical avoidance here and boost my critical avoidance. So whatever you would like to use here, it's ultimately irrelevant. It's just about your statistics. Now, if we look at the stable, this is a big part of the build, obviously. So I am using Survivor's Blessing ×2 because, again, this is kind of a deflection build. So I gain a hill every time I deflect. I deflect all the time. Here is Warlord's Inspiration. We're using 3 of these. I've been told these don't stack. I've been told these stack. There's several arguments. And all I'm going to say is that whether they stack or not, it doesn't matter because they're all garbage. Yes, that would be great if they do stack. They have diminishing returns, however. So the first one would be 20%. The second one would be 10%. And the third one would be 5%. So you're still gaining a lot of companion damage if these are actually working. Like I said, I've heard both sides of the table. At one point, these did stack in time with diminishing returns. Do they currently stack? I honestly don't know. So the mount insignias in the game right now are in a really bad place. They need a complete overhaul. There's nothing else you're going to put here that's going to matter anyway. So it is what it is. As far as your insignias, again, this is up to you to decide what you ultimately want to use. I use a bunch of initiatives for the critical strike and deflection, and then I have a few fortitudes for the HP and defense, and then ultimately I have some dominances, which also have companion influence. So it's power and companion influence on my dominances. So that covers the boons and the mounts. Let's go ahead and talk about the companions, and then we'll wrap this up. Alright, folks, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. This is the whole center of the companion build, obviously. So you're either going to be using a Xuna, or you're going to be using a chicken, or you're going to use both of them. Theoretically, you want to use Xuna when it's more AoE situation. So with trash mobs, Xuna really shines. And then when you get to a boss, you probably want to switch over to the chicken. However, as I mentioned in the disclaimer of the beginning of this video, the chicken is ultimately going to get adjusted. It's going to get nerfed. And it's just a matter of when is that going to happen. But again, as of filming this video, November 9th of 2020, yeah, you want to use Xuna for AoE most likely, and you want to use a chicken for single target. Now, if you don't have both, or let's say you only have the chicken, well then just run the chicken the entire time. So let's go ahead and really get down to the nitty-gritty here and what matters. Armor penetration matters. Accuracy matters. The power matters. So, you have a few options here. You can run 3 armor pen companion pieces. You can run 1 accuracy and 2 armor pen, or you can run 3 split ones, because there is an armor pen and accuracy companion piece if you want to run 3 split companion pieces. Ultimately, armor pen is the most important because it directly will boost your damage overall. Now the problem is that if you want to do high-end content, so if you want to do Infernal Citadel or you want to do Zariel, most likely you're going to have to use 1 accuracy piece and only 2 armor pens, because your Xuna isn't going to do full potential. Your chicken isn't going to do full potential. The enemy rating is just too high. The enemy or the boss is going to deflect her attack to a degree. She's not going to do her full damage. Even with armor pen being this high, Xuna technically still isn't doing her full potential. Now, if you're doing anything less than Infernal Citadel, it doesn't matter. Just run full armor pen. If you're doing Fangbreaker Island, you're doing Spell Plague, you're doing Tiamat, you're doing Demogorgon, it doesn't matter. Just run full armor pen. So again, that is full armor pen. So that's the golden talisman of the companion. It's 12,000 armor penetration, and I am using 3 of those. Again, I even run this in Infernal Citadel. I don't even change to the accuracy. I really don't. And I don't see that big of a difference, but there is a difference. Accuracy will help out your companion. Armor pen is definitely the most important. And power obviously directly correlates to how much damage your Xuna does as well. So essentially, you're going to want 6 Indomitables. So Indomitables have rank 13, it's 13% additional damage. A lot of people don't understand how Indomitables work. What happens is your Xuna will hit for, let's just say, 250k, and then each Indomitable procs off that 250k. So 13% of 250k is what, like 27,000 or something. So you would see 6 hits for 27,000, which is what 27 times 6 is what, another 130,000 damage, right? So let's say your Xuna hits for 250,000. She'll do 6 more additional hits for 27k, and then you can equal out the damage. So it all depends on the initial hit. So for instance, a fully buffed chicken will hit for 500 or 600,000. So then do 13% of that, times it by 6. That's why Indomitables are so broken. That's why it's suggested that you should use 6 Indomitables. Now, if you don't have Indomitables, you can stack power here. You can see I have 2 empowered here just to show you guys. But like I said, you want to have 6 Indomitables. The thing most people don't know about is Indomitables were not supposed to work like this. Indomitables were only supposed to be able to use 1 on your companion. You were never supposed to be able to put 6 of these on your companion. So whether or not the company down the road, that's one of the nerfs or adjustments or changes they do, is from here on out, you're only allowed to use 1 Indomitable, and that's what was intended. However, they just never fixed it and they let it go. So you can stack currently 6 of these, and that's why this build is, one of the reasons why this build is so broken and it does so well. Another reason this is so broken is Xuna does not get scaled down in content. So let's just use Fangbreaker Island as an example. If you go into FBI, your character gets scaled down because of scaling. The thing is your companion does not. So your companion destroys everything in that lesser content. That's with every dungeon that is scaled down. And every dungeon in the game is scaled down right now currently, except Infernal Citadel, Tower of the Mad Mage, and Zariel's Challenge. So 90% of the content you're running, this build is perfect for. Because again, your character is getting scaled down, your companion does not get scaled down, and will do just astronomical damage. So you will run through those dungeons very fast. So hopefully that covers everything. I think we went over everything. I'm going to show a couple clips of Fangbreaker that we just instantly melt everything. And then we're going to wrap up this video. Alright, here we are. FBI. This is the first boss. Now, in this group, we have 2 Xunas and 2 chickens. And you can just see the potential. We literally just one-shot all of the bosses in here. So again, during this, my Xuna was not using Indomitables. The other person's Xuna was using Indomitables. And then we have 2 chickens in here as well. But you could just see the damage. Everyone pops their debuffs and done. Literally one phase, the first boss. So now we move on to the Dragon Turtle. Again, you could just see the potential. This is like the pre-Mod 16 era of literally one-phasing bosses. So we'll pop all our debuffs on the turtle here momentarily. And the boss just melts. It just melts. The amount of damage that these companions do, because again, we're getting scaled down, but our companions are not getting scaled down. You can see me pop my Pillar Power, I pop my Staff of Flowers, I pop my debuffs, and it's just done. It's done. It doesn't have a chance. 2 Xunas, 2 chickens, just dead. So now we got the last boss coming up here of Fangbreaker. And again, no surprise. It literally just melts. It melts. And you can do this in all of content, except, like I said, Infernal Citadel, you're not going to one-phase bosses. But in Infernal Citadel, you're still going to do a lot of damage. So there you go. One-phased again. This was actually hardcore, too, actually. This was actually a hardcore FBI, which was funny. So here's the overall damage. So here we go. So blue, Iron Blue, 36 million damage. This was a fully buffed Xuna. Okay? He's the tank, by the way. Blue is the Guardian Fighter. He was the tank. He's the tank. 36 million. That's all Xuna damage, essentially. He's playing a tank. He's not doing a lot of damage himself. This is essentially all his companion. This is all Xuna right here. This was a fully buffed Xuna. Again, everything I showed you in this video, this was with 6 Indomitables on. And then you have me. I'm the healer. I'm the healer, guys. I'm the healer, and I took 2nd DPS. My Xuna was not fully 100% buffed. This was me not using 6 Indomitables. So you can see, do you really need Indomitables? I guess it depends on who you're running with, because, you know, this is a very expensive build. You as an individual player need to make that decision. Is it worth investing in 6 Indomitables when you could just use your Empowered? Yeah, I mean, there's a 16 million difference here, but ultimately, as a group, we destroyed this dungeon. So, do you want to invest in Indomitables to look pretty, right? This is the tank. The tank took top DPS, 36 million. I took 2nd in DPS with 20 million. Again, 16 million difference. Indomitables versus not Indomitables. And then we have our 2 chickens. Lenny was using a chicken, 16. No Indomitables, no maximized build, nothing. This is just Lenny on a barbarian with a chicken out. No Warlord's Inspiration, no Lyrill's Bell of Empowerment, no buffs on these chickens whatsoever. And you can still see that they did fine, to be honest. This is a barbarian, and this was a control wizard, or a wizard rather. So we have a wizard here that isn't fully optimized on chicken. We have a barbarian isn't optimized on chicken, and they still did 16 million and 12 million respectively. Again, Xuna fully buffed. Xuna not 100% fully buffed, not with 0 Indomitables. And then, of course, Kitty Cat. Shout out to Kitty Cat. She was just there as a healer for funsies. So her damage was irrelevant. She was there as our healer because this was a hardcore. It was a hardcore FBI. It was for one of the quest lines for Redeem Citadel. So there it is, folks. I mean, that's the entire build. That's all the stuff you should be focused on if you want to do this niche-related build. Again, this isn't new. People have been doing this for 6 and 7 months. I just wanted to put out a specific Warlock video. Again, you don't have to run Soulweaver. You can run Hellbringer and do even more damage from your character, plus your companion damage. So that's completely up to you. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little longer, but it is a build video. Those videos tend to get longer. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below. Remember to smash that thumbs up button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We're going to have to wait and see what the future foretells. We'll have to see if, you know, they make any adjustments to the Indomitables, if they make any adjustments to the companions overall. I mean, I can't tell the future. We have to wait and see. So I'll see you guys real soon.